Welcome again to Dr. English channel. This is Dr. Mafi, a PhD in Applied Linguistics, and I'm an English teacher. I'd like to share a very important lesson today with you, and it's about modal verbs. You know, we have different kinds of verbs. Of course, depending on the classification, we come up with the verbs. In relation to the verbs, we can classify verbs into different categories. But one category of classification of verbs is based on whether we are dealing with the main verbs or non-main verbs. The verbs, the normal verbs like walking, going, swimming, driving, these are main verbs, right? But we also have special kinds of verbs that come to our rescue, that help us, in fact, get across or communicate our messages more easily. How? We use modal verbs. We also have auxiliary verbs, meaning helping verbs, right? Modal verbs are also kind of helping verbs, but a little bit different. They, make a distinction between the two, right? They distinguish like modal verbs from auxiliary verbs. But anyway, auxiliary verbs are like be, all forms of be. Am, is, are, was, were, been, okay? Have, has, had, whatever, all right? Or do, does, did, whatever, okay? All forms. Anyway, apart from the auxiliary verbs that we use in some tenses, we can also use modal verbs everywhere. It's written, it's used all over the place. You can see it in every text, in every conversation. And they help us, in fact, communicate our messages, convey our ideas. For example, can talks about ability. Well, if you want to talk about your ability to swim, for example, or drive or fly, you use the modal verb can or could. And they normally come in pairs. Like will, would, shall, should, may, might, can, could. And normally they pronounce it in a special way, like can. They don't pronounce it like can or, like can, very fast. All right? Or has to, have to, or had to, which is somehow its past version. And also must. Must talks about necessity. Just like has to and have to, or had to. It also refers to necessity, obligation. And we also have ought to, just like should, ought to. Well, I will make sure actually I record a video for you about modal verbs that refer to obligation and necessity, because there is a difference, a great difference between must, should, and ought to. Anyway, well, our topic is, or our lesson today is about modal verbs, all of them together. And we normally use these modal verbs, either one of the two pairs, after the subject or pronouns, subject pronouns, and then after them we use the verbs, right? Like, I will go home after this class. I will go home after this class. I will go home after this class. Or I will go, for example, to the capital tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, I will go. Or I'm going to go, for example, to a wedding tomorrow or tonight. So it talks about future, will. Shall, should, they talk about not only future, but also somehow a kind of a form of necessity. May, might, probability, possibility. Can, could, ability. Has to, have to, had to, and must, necessity. So all of these modal verbs have a special meaning, and they help us in fact, either understand our audience's speech or communicate our messages to them, to other people. Okay? So they help us a lot in sentences and in conversations. Well, I gave you two examples here already. E.g., for example, I can swim, but I can't fly, for example. I can swim, but I can't fly. I can speak English, but I can't speak, for example, Japanese. All right? Well, I, subject, modal verb, verb, the main verb. Okay? I can swim. What's the negative form? I can't swim. Or British people pronounce it can't swim, right? Well, I can't, for example, fly. Can you swim? Can you swim? Well, we bring the modal verbs to the beginning, the before subject, so it will be like, can you swim? Yes, I can. No, I can't. It may rain. May it rain? May it rain? Yes, it may, or no, it may not. Okay? But how about the negative form? It may not rain. It may not rain. This is the way we make negative structures or questions. Thank you for watching again. Stay awesome until another video.